right, so who is ready to continue on with the written study of the book of Revelation? We are in chapter 14, and we just got done discussing part of the first verses in the chapter, which deal with 144,000. And the first video that I did of this went through who they were, which was spoken about for the first time in Revelation 7. And we see their physical redemption amidst trumpet 6 in Revelation 14, 1 through 5. And then we transition into the seventh trumpet with the preaching of the everlasting gospel in Revelation 14, 6 and 7. But right now we are focusing on the first verses of the chapter, which find us amidst trumpet 6. And it has to do with the physical redemption from earth to heaven of the 144,000. And I discussed parallels as far as the cloud imagery, because we were specifically told that they were caught up. They were the cloud that, well, we weren't specifically told. We infer that they are the cloud that the two witnesses are caught up with in Revelation 11 at the tail end of trumpet 6. And then when we next see them, they are standing in the heavenly throne room with the Lamb. So there is cloud imagery that I went through to discuss that. And these verses are here. The ones that I talked about. Revelation 12:1 is where the template for that cloud imagery comes from. Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses. And that is referencing the Old Testament saints who are saints on account of their faith. Let us lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. And then obviously we know 1 Thessalonians 4:16, for the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God. The dead in Christ shall rise first, and we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Then fast forwarding to the second coming, Revelation 1:7, behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him. And that's the same thing that Matthew 24:29 states, that of the second coming, after the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be darkened, the moon shall not give her light, the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. Then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. They shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So the cloud imagery in Revelation 11, that the two witnesses are ascend up to heaven in a cloud, is the 144,000 witnesses. And then again, as I previously stated, Revelation 14 begins with them standing in the heavenly throne room with the Lamb, which means they were physically redeemed from the earth. So basically, that's to say that clouds are not white puffy things that change based on weather. Rather, they are denotive of groups of people who meet the same precondition as to participate in the event at hand. Thus, the cloud in Revelation 11 that the two witnesses are caught up in are a group of people who meet the same precondition. And that's Revelation 11:12, where I've been referencing. They heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither, and they descended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. When we next see the 144,000, they will be standing on heavenly Mount Zion with the Lamb, singing a song of physical redemption. The elders sung their own song of physical redemption in Revelation 5. In Revelation 14, it will be time for the 144,000 to sing theirs. And as we move through this video, we'll actually be introduced to the third and final song that is sung by an altogether different people group in Revelation 15. Just as resurrections do not overlap or have gaps, there are specific qualifications that one must meet in order to participate in a specific resurrection. No one can qualify for two different resurrections. They can only ever qualify for one. So there's no overlap, but everyone will be resurrected at some time, whether to life or to death. That depends on the qualifications. But in the same vein or in the same likeness, these songs that are sung in Revelation are specific to people groups. There are no gaps in who sings them, but there is absolutely no overlap in who sings them. No one but the elders and the redeemed of that group can sing that song in Revelation 5. And no one but the 144,000 can sing this song of redemption in Revelation 14. And no one but the people in Revelation 15 to whom that applies will be able to sing that song. So it's just kind of interesting on that point. So I already went over this, but I'm just going over it again because I think it's very interesting. And I think this is where I left off this actual place here is where I left off in the previous video. So this is part 2. So I'll just go back up to this last ending space of ending paragraph of describing who the 144,000 are, in case people want to take this all kinds of out of context, which they like to do about just about everything. But this is very clearly stated in Scripture who these people are. If we are to take these words literally, let's go back up. Revelation 14:4-5. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the firstfruits unto God and to the Lamb, and in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of God. If we are to take these words literally, there is nothing more we really need to say about them. There will be 144,000 faithful male Jews from 12 of the tribes of Israel. The original 12 with Manasseh replacing Dan. And that's a whole conversation that I went through in Revelation 7 as far as what the order of the tribes meant. The tribes listed what they meant, and it gives you a word picture that tells a story. So that was pretty fascinating. I didn't repeat that here in this chapter, but I did refer you back to, if you're reading this, back to Revelation 7 to get the whole of that story. And these 144,000 will be faithful to Christ alone and will witness to Israel alongside the 2 witnesses for the duration of the first half of Daniel's 70th week. At the conclusion of their ministry, they will be physically redeemed by God, telling them to come up hither, and they will ascend to heaven in front of the world. Once in the throne room in heaven, they will be with the Lamb who they followed on earth. Sorry, I'm just bringing my microphone closer. And they will sing a song of redemption, only they know the words to. The only thing left to discuss about them is why they are called the firstfruits unto God and to the Lamb. So this is all new. I kind of previewed this in another video that I went through in preparation to go through this discussion, but I have not yet discussed it here. So this is new. In large part, references to firstfruits regard harvest typology. Such is the case with 144,000. In the Gospels, Jesus told parables regarding the kingdom. One such parable was of the harvest at the end of the world. Matthew 13:36. Then Jesus sent the multitude away and went into the house. And his disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. He answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, the good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into the furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. As was the case with many of his parables, Jesus taught of the time when the kingdom of heaven would come to earth. The parable of the harvest is the separation of the wheat and tares, where the tares represent unbelievers who will be excluded from the kingdom. In contrast, the wheat represents the saved who will go into the kingdom alongside Christ. Jesus repeated this teaching in Matthew 24, starting in verse 37. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall 2 be in the field, one shall be taken, and the other left. 2 women shall be grinding at the mill, one shall be taken, and the other left. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. When Jesus returns to earth at the second coming, there will be 2 groups of people left to meet him, the saved and the unsaved. The saved are the wheat, and they shall be left by the angels to go into the kingdom. The unsaved are the tares, and they shall be taken by the angels and cast out of the kingdom and into outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. In the harvest typology, there are 3 different parts: the firstfruits, the main harvest, and the gleanings. The harvest, as it relates to the wheat and tares, specifically regards Israel. As we will see when we get to the end of Revelation 14, the grape harvest is reserved for Gentiles. Since the wheat harvest relates to Israel, we would expect to see specific references to all 3 parts of the harvest in passages that also specifically relate to Israel. This we do. We note the firstfruits of the harvest in Revelation 14 regarding the 144,000. We note the main harvest of the separation of the wheat and tares by the angels from the verses above in Matthew 24. We further note the reference to the gleanings also in Matthew 24 as shown below. And this comes from an earlier part of Matthew 24, specifically in verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. Then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. We're just going to underline that because this is actually the specific reference in verse 31. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. The main harvest regards the remnant of Israel who will be supernaturally protected by God in one place, as we learned in Revelation 12. In the context of Matthew 24, all references to the elect are Israel. And just as a side note, this is one of the biggest stumbling blocks for Christians who try to insert themselves in Matthew 24, is they call themselves the elect and fail to realize that the references to the elect are Israel and Israel alone. Also, in the context of the passage above, the gleaning are the remnants of the main harvest left at the four corners to be gathered separately from the main harvest. And we learn this from Leviticus 19, verse 9. And when you reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not wholly reap the corners of thy field, neither shalt thou gather the gleanings of thy harvest. Thou shalt not glean thy vineyard, neither shalt thou gather every grape of thy vineyard. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and for the stranger. I am the Lord your God. Now, the instruction given in Leviticus 19 regarding the corners of the field is the same reference given by Jesus in Matthew 24:31, to gather the elect from the four winds from one end of heaven to the other. Four winds in this context regards four corners of the earth, or the uttermost parts of the earth. The main reference tying this all together is found in Deuteronomy 30, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee, and shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thine soul. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out into the uttermost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it. And he will do thee good, and multiply thee above thy fathers. And the Lord thy God will circumcise thine heart, and the heart of thy seed, to love the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thine soul, that thou mayest live. And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. Recall that Leviticus 19 told us that the gleanings were for the poor and the stranger. We will see how the gleaning of the grape harvest relates to the strangers, meaning to not Israel, to the Gentiles. The gleanings of the wheat harvest are specifically for the poor. And I just want to take you back up to that verse up here. It says the gleanings, thou shalt leave them for the poor and the stranger. So basically what I'm telling you is that it talks about the gleaning of the vineyard, the gleaning of the harvest, and talking about not reaping the corners of the field. And this is going to refer, it's going to be an instruction given to both the poor and to the stranger. This is going to be a reference to both Israel and to the Gentiles. And this is where we really need to separate that the wheat is Israel and the grapes. The wheat harvest is for Israel and the grape harvest is for the Gentiles. So we're going to see both of these at play. But notice that this verse also includes the vineyard. The vineyard is the grape, that's a reference to the grape harvest. So this is going to be talking about reaping the whole corners of thy field, the wheat harvest, and also the grape harvest. And we see references to the poor and the stranger because the poor is going to reference the wheat harvest and the stranger is going to reference the grape harvest. So this verse in Leviticus 19 is really important to bring both of these into context because in Revelation 14, you have references to the wheat harvest and to the grape harvest. One regards Israel and the other regards the Gentiles. There is no overlap. So that's why I want to just back up a little bit and just make sure that everyone understands the references here. So I'm going to reread this little paragraph here. Recall that Leviticus 19 told us the gleanings were for the poor and the stranger. We will see how the gleanings of the grape harvest relate to the strangers. Read Gentiles. And when I get to, I haven't yet written about that, but when I get to that, I will bring in Ephesians 2 rather, where when discussing the contrast of the Jews versus Gentiles, Paul calls them circumcision versus uncircumcision. And he tells us very clearly that we were strangers from the covenants of promise. So in the context of Jews versus Gentiles, the Gentiles are always referred to as strangers. And when you go back into Exodus 12, where it talks about the requirements for keeping the Passover, it talks about the strangers among you had to do the same thing that the Jews did in order to partake of the Passover. So anytime you see a reference to stranger, it's always going to be talking about Gentiles. In case you guys didn't know that, I will clarify when I get to discussion of the grape harvest and the treading of the winepress, because that comes at the end of this chapter. But I just wanted to kind of let that conversation settle in case you didn't know that. Maybe you did. So maybe this is not new to you. But anyway, references to strangers are to Gentiles. The gleanings of the wheat harvest are specifically for the poor. And we understand that the poor is a reference to Israel. Matthew 5, the Beatitudes, the first public ministry that Jesus gave. He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven," talking to the Jews. Returning to Revelation 14, we see that the physical redemption of the 144,000 is the beginning of the harvest at the end of the world. The remainder of that harvest will be reaped when Jesus returns at the second coming to separate the wheat from the tares and gather into his kingdom all who are his. Thus concludes the final reference to trumpet 6 in Revelation. It is now time to move into the final reference to trumpet 7 in Revelation, the preaching of the everlasting gospel. And I'm just going to page up a few here because I did put this at the beginning of the discussion. It's a chart that I've included a couple of times in this chapter. And it's right here where it shows you the parallel and sequential events. Trumpet 6 is mentioned in Revelation 11 and 13 and 14. So the mention to trumpet 6 in Revelation 14 is the 144,000 standing on heavenly Mount Zion with the Lamb. And then that moves into trumpet 7 with the angel preaching the everlasting gospel, which was first prophesied in Revelation 10. In the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God shall be finished, as he hath revealed to his servants the prophets. The mystery of God is the life of Christ from birth to ascension. That is the Revelation 12 sign in the heavens, is preaching the everlasting gospel. It's revealing the life of Christ from birth to ascension. And the angel preaching the everlasting gospel does it verbally here in Revelation 14, 6, and 7. So basically what I'm showing in that chart is the transition, how Revelation 14 shows the transition between trumpet 6 and trumpet 7 via the redemption of the 144,000, then into the first angel, which begins the preachings that occur at trumpet 7. So right here, we're now in trumpet 7. So we are now completely done with references to trumpet 6. And now we are beginning the final reference to trumpet 7 in this chapter, which has already been restated across multiple chapters to this point, which is why I did all of the midpoint chapters together, because there is significant repetition across them to help the reader understand that these events are going on in parallel, not just in sequence. So I have a midpoint chart which helps put all of these things together. So we're completely done with trumpet 6 now, and we are moving into the final reference for trumpet 7 now. So it's now time to move into the final reference to trumpet 7 in Revelation, the preaching of the everlasting gospel. As we have already discussed several times to this point, the first reference to trumpet 7 was found in Revelation 10, as I just told you. The finishing of that mystery, i.e. the preaching of the everlasting gospel, is shown next in Revelation 14, indicating that we are now transitioning from the conclusion of trumpet 6 to the commencement of trumpet 7. You may also find it helpful to refer back to the chart showing parallel and sequential events throughout the midpoint chapters, which, like I said, I've included a couple of times here and restated a couple of times as well, because I know there's a lot going on and it's hard to follow, so I'm trying to make it easy as I can. And then this was talked about in Matthew 24:14, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come. That is Revelation 14, 6, and 7. I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and the earth, the sea, and the fountains of waters. Since we have already spent a great deal of time discussing this subject, I will not repeat myself at this time. we will simply re-review the tidings that the Revelation 14 angels bring with them at the sounding of trumpet 7. And if you guys have been following along, I've already discussed all of this, so I'm not going to do it all over again. It is already in the midpoint chapter. Like I said, I'm writing Revelation 14, each chapter individually, but Revelation 11:15 through Revelation 15:8 are all in one chapter, which is trumpet 7. So I've already gone through this at length, and I'm not going to go through it again, but it is already in this chapter. You can just scroll back up a little bit and read this part of it, and you will totally understand what I mean by this. So as we noted, the second angel brings Babylon back into play, Revelation 14:8. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. This is discussed at great length in Revelation 13 chapter, which is in this midpoint chapter, but it's in the Revelation 13 text, not the Revelation 14 text. So if you're curious about this, I already went through all of it. In our review of Revelation 13, we already noted that the city Babylon will be set back up in the second half of the 70th week as the headquarters of the beast kingdom. This is the reference to the woman, Babylon, riding the beast in Revelation 17. This is also the fulfillment of Zechariah 5 as noted on the chart from Daniel included in our study of Revelation 13. There is another chart of all of the imagery, the animals, the kingdoms, the beasts, all of that stuff from the book of Daniel that I put together that I included in here. And Revelation 17, woman riding the beast, is in there also. So again, all of this is in the Revelation 13 study, and I did not bring it back into Revelation 14 because I already discussed it all. In fact, Zechariah notes the transition from judgments over parts of the earth to judgment over the whole of the earth with the introduction of Babylon on the world stage. This goes hand in hand with the vial judgments we're about to see in Revelation 16, for they are also poured over the whole of the earth in contrast to the trumpets, which impacted 1/3. Note that the flying roll is a reference to the scroll that is presently being read from. The same scroll that Ezekiel told us contains lamentations and mourning and woe. So Zechariah 5. Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. This is a reference to the scroll that is presently being read from. And in Revelation 5, we saw it. It was still sealed in the hand of the Father. When it was shown again in Revelation 10, it was opened and being read from by Jesus, who is the mighty angel that was pictured in Revelation 10. And he said unto me, What seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, the breadth thereof 10 cubits. Then said he unto me, This is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the earth, the whole earth. For every one that stealeth shall be cut off on this side according to it, and every one that sweareth shall be cut off on that side according to it. Now, just to kind of break this down a little bit further, and we'll go through this more when I get to Revelation 17, when we go through the imagery again, but it says, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. And this denotes the transition. See, this is going to be tied to Babylon. So this is tied to the vial judgments and not before. Because the trumpet judgments were not over the face of the whole earth. They were 1/3 of this, 1/3 of that, 1/3 of that. This is specifically going to be tied to the second half of the 70th week and to the vial judgments, which are specifically noted to be over the whole of the earth. Their impacts are not portions of the earth, they're the whole of the earth. So it's very important to note the language, as I am a huge proponent of doing. The text means exactly what it says. We just need to understand exactly what it means by reading it and paying attention to the words. So this is the curse that goeth forth over the whole of the earth. That is why when people ask, who's Mystery Babylon? That's not even a thing anyway. But thinking that somehow Mystery Babylon applies to something, could be now or even to the first half of the 70th week, is false on its face. Because the first time Babylon is even introduced in the book of Revelation is in Revelation 14, previewing mid-trib and after. And it's specifically related to the vial judgments because here in Zechariah 5, the flying roll and the judgments, that's what he said, it's curses. It's curses. Ezekiel told us that the scroll contains lamentations and mourning and woe. So this is the part of the story. This is related to the part of the story that relates to what is going on over the whole face of the earth. It's the lamentations and mourning and woe that are related specifically to the vial judgments, because those are what affect the whole of the earth. I know I'm being significantly repetitive right now, but this is important because people get this so wrong with regard to Babylon. Zechariah 5 tells you what you need to know about wickedness, which is the woman, being established upon its own base in the land of Shinar. Shinar is Babylon. So this prophecy in Zechariah 5 deals with Babylon and the reestablishment of Babylon, and it will be reestablished in the time where you have lamentations, mourning, and woe, i.e. curses, that impact the whole of the earth. That's Revelation 16, folks. So let's keep going. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off on this side according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off on that side according to it. I will bring forth, saith the Lord of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name. It shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. Then the angel that talked with me went forth, and said unto me, Lift up thine eyes, and see what it is that goeth forth. And I said, What is it? And he said, This is an ephah that goeth forth. It's a basket. He said, Moreover, this is their resemblance through all the earth. And behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead, and this is the woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephah. What is the woman imagery in Revelation? Babylon. She's given 3 names: Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. In Revelation 17, and again, all of this was already discussed in Revelation 13's chapter, but I'm just recapping for those of you who may have missed it. The mystery of the woman is answered in Revelation 17. She is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth, which then answers to her second name, Babylon the Great. And what that city represents is fornication with the kings of the earth, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. She's wickedness. So this is the prophecy in the Old Testament that Revelation 14:8, the angel flying through the midst of the heavens saying Babylon is fallen, and Revelation 17 and 18 with the destruction of the city. That is what this is taken from, is Zechariah 5, to tell you that wickedness, the woman, will be established upon its original base, Babel, Babylon, Nimrod, in the land of Shinar. It is literally Babylon. There is no such thing as mystery Babylon. There is just Babylon the Great, which answers to what is the mystery of the woman. She is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So anyway, he said, this is wickedness. Yes, the woman, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. He cast it into the midst of the ephah, and he cast the weight of lead upon the mouth thereof. Then lifted I up mine eyes and looked, and behold, there came out 2 women, and the wind was in their wings. These are like just little demonic entity things, because there's no female angels. So these are not angels. These are just unnatural, evil things. For they had the wings like the wings of a stork. They lifted up the ephah between the earth and the heaven. Then said I to the angel that talked with me, Whither do these bear the ephah? He said unto me, To build it an house in the land of Shinar, and it shall be established and set there upon her own base. So where it all started is where it will all end. It is Babylon. Indeed, the woman, wickedness, will be set upon its own base back in the land of Shinar, Babylon. Where it all began is where it will all end. And by the hand of the beast she made powerful, will she be destroyed. Finally, we move to the 3rd angel, who has a message for the world at trumpet 7. Since trumpet 7 is where beast 2 is introduced, and it is beast 2 who commands the world to worship the beast, create an image to that beast, and receive his mark, that they might... Sorry, I'm going to go back and reread that. I paused it so I could... I'm also proofreading. Since trumpet 7 is where beast 2 is introduced, and it is beast 2 who commands the world to worship the beast. We'll do beast 1. Create an image to that beast, and cause the world to receive his mark that they might buy or sell. It behooves the world to understand the importance of not following the commands being given to them, lest they be tormented immediately and permanently with no hope of salvation. And that is Revelation 14, 9 through 13. The third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb, and the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. At that point on the timeline of history, every single person alive, except the remnant who were removed from the situation and supernaturally protected, will have to make a choice. Follow the commands of Angel 1 and Angel 3, which mean fear God and worship Jesus and do not worship the beast or his image or take his mark. Or do not follow the commands of Angel 1 and 3. And that means don't worship Jesus and do worship the beast, his image, or take his mark. Those who heed the commands will love not their lives unto death. They shall die in the Lord, rest in Christ, and be rewarded for their faith. These are they who we shall see in the heavenly throne room in the very next chapter. Revelation 15:1. And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of God. And that is a preview to the vial judgments, which start in Revelation 16:1. And I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten victory over the beast, over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of God. And they sing the song of Moses, the servant of God, and the song of the Lamb, saying, Great and marvelous are thy works, Lord God Almighty. Just and true are thy ways, thou King of saints. Who shall not fear thee, O Lord, and glorify thy name? For thou only art holy, for all nations shall come and worship before thee, for thy judgments are made manifest. It is important to note that the slaying of those who choose for Christ and against the beast is a mass death event. The totality of those who will be slain for this reason will occur between the sounding of trumpet 7 and the pouring out of vial 1. As such, the totality of this group is seen in the heavenly throne room in spirit, not in glorified bodies, to witness the totality of the vial judgments being poured out. These are those who will be part of the group resurrected in Revelation 20 after Armageddon to rule and reign alongside Christ and the church in the kingdom. Revelation 20 verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that he must be loosed a little season. And I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus, and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. And they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead lived not until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death hath no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. Revelation 15 shows us that this group of saints will have a song of redemption. As the elders had their own in Revelation 5, and the 144,000 had their own in Revelation 14, the song of redemption that those who get victory over the beast will sing is unique to them and their situation. The blessing for them is that they will get to be absent from the vial judgments, which will impact the whole of the world. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. In fact, the song this group will sing is the same song Israel sang when God gave them victory over Pharaoh in Exodus 15. It is the same one also shown in Deuteronomy 32. Yes, there are 2 songs of Moses. No, we are not told which one they will sing. Perhaps they'll sing both. Review the text below of both songs and see how either could apply. So we'll start with the one from Exodus 15:1. Then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord. And that's why I think it's this one, though, because this is the same as them having gotten victory over the Pharaoh and the Pharaoh's army, similar to them having gotten victory over the beast. But whatever, I'm not sure. We're not specifically told. There are 2 songs, so I'm going to go through both of them. Then sang Moses and the children of Israel the song unto the Lord, and spake, saying, I will sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and song. He is become my salvation. He is my God, and I will prepare him an habitation. My father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his host hath he cast into the sea. His chosen captains also are drowned in the Red Sea. The depths have covered them. They sank into the bottom as a stone. Thy right hand, O Lord, is become glorious in power. Thy right hand, which in case you guys didn't know, I talked about this in Revelation 5, thy right hand is a name for Jesus Christ in the Old Testament. Thy right hand, O Lord, hath dashed in pieces the enemy, and in the greatness of thine excellency thou hast overthrown them that rose up against thee. Thou sentest forth thy wrath, which consumed them as stubble, and with the blast of thy nostrils the waters were gathered together. The floods stood upright as an heap, and the depths were congealed in the hearts of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My lust shall be satisfied upon them. I will draw my sword, my hand shall destroy them. Thou didst blow with thy wind, the sea covered them, they sank as lead in the mighty waters. Who is like unto thee, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like thee, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders? Thou stretchest out thy right hand, the earth swallowed them. Thou in thy mercy hast led forth the people which thou hast redeemed. Thou hast guided them in thy strength unto thy holy habitation. The people shall hear and be afraid. Sorrow shall take hold in the inhabitants of Palestina. Then the dukes of Edom shall be amazed. The men of Moab, the mighty men of Moab, trembling, shall take hold upon them. All the inhabitants of Canaan shall melt away. Fear and dread shall fall upon them. By the greatness of thine arm they shall be as still as a stone, till thy people pass over, O Lord, till the people pass over which thou hast purchased. Thou shalt bring them in and plant them in the mountain of thine inheritance, in the place, O Lord, which thou hast made for thee to dwell in the sanctuary, O Lord, which thy hand have established. The Lord shall reign forever and ever. For the horse of Pharaoh went in with his chariots and with his horsemen into the sea, and the Lord brought again the waters of the sea upon them. But the children of Israel went on dry land in the midst of the sea. And then Deuteronomy 32 is the other one. Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass, because I will publish the name of the Lord. Ascribe ye greatness unto our God. He is the rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are judgment. A God of truth and without iniquity, just and right is he. They have corrupted themselves, their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. Do ye thus requite the Lord, O foolish people and unwise? Is not he thy father that hath bought thee? Hath he not made thee and established thee? Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. He found him in a deserted land, in a desert land, and in the waste, howling wilderness. He led him about, he instructed him, he kept him as the apple of his eye. As an eagle stirreth up her nest, fluttereth over her young, spreadeth her abroad her wings, taketh them, beareth them on her wings. So the Lord alone did lead him, and there was no strange God with him. He made him ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increase of the fields, and he made him to suck honey out of a rock, and oil out of the flinty rock, butter of kine, and milk of sheep, with fat of lambs and rams of the breed of Bashan, and goats, with the fat of kidneys and wheat. And thou didst drink the pure blood of the grape. But Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked. Thou art waxen fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness, for he forsook God which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods, with abominations they provoked him to anger. They sacrificed unto devils, not to God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. Of the rock that begat thee thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten God that formed thee. And when the Lord saw it, he abhorred them because of the provoking of his sons and his daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be, for they are a very froward generation, children in whom is no faith. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those who are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. For a fire is kindled in mine anger, and shall burn unto the lowest hell, and shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. I will heap mischiefs upon them. I will spend mine arrows upon them. They shall be burnt with hunger, and devoured with burning heat, and with bitter destruction. I will also send the teeth of the beasts upon them, with the poison of serpents of the dust. The sword without and terror within shall destroy both the young man and the virgin, the suckling also with the man of gray hairs. I said I would scatter them into the corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, Our hand is high, and the Lord hath not done all this. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they should understand this, they would consider their latter end. How should one chase 1,000 and put to 10,000 to flight, except their rock hath sold them, and the Lord hath shut them up? For their rock is not as our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges. For their vine is the vine of Sodom, and the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall, their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of dragons, and the cruel venom of asps. Is not this land laid up in store with me, and sealed up among my treasures? To me belongeth vengeance and recompense, their foot shall slide in due time. For the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that shall come upon them make haste. For the Lord shall judge his people, and repent himself for his servants, when he seeth that their power is gone, and there is none shut up or left. And he shall say, Where are their gods, their rock in whom they trusted, which did eat the fat of their sacrifices, and drink the wine of the drink offerings? Let them rise up and help you, and be your protection. See now that I, even I, am he, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up mine hand to heaven and say, I live forever. If I whet my glittering sword, and mine hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies, and will reward them that hate me. I will make mine arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain and of the captives, from the beginning of revenges upon the enemy. Rejoice, O ye nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, and will render vengeance to his adversaries, and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. Before we move back into Revelation 14 to discuss the next events, it is important to note one additional piece of imagery given regarding the throne room that this group of saints is being shown in. I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire. And the point of that is to go back into Revelation 4 and show that the sea of glass was mentioned there, but it certainly was not mingled with fire. And just to note that the reason it is mingled with fire now is because the Lord is going to get ready to destroy the earth with fire. He's getting angry, and the fire is the kindling of his wrath. So just to describe that, and then we'll go back into Revelation 14, where it shows the Son of Man sitting on a cloud with a crown on his head, because trumpet 7 was the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. So when next he is seen after Revelation 11's exaltation of him to a place of kingship atop heavenly Mount Zion, Revelation 14 shows him with a crown on his head, and he is getting ready to reap the earth of wicked Gentiles. So that is where we are going next, and then I'll finish up Revelation 14 by talking about the grape harvest, which relates to Gentiles, and then we'll go into the rest of Revelation 15 that I haven't discussed, which is the preparation for the pouring out of the 7 vials, and then we will be done with the midpoint chapters. So I am actually going to post this on Academia, and I am sufficiently happy with the proofreading and making sure that it said what I needed it to say. So I'm going to go ahead and post this on Academia, updated for you guys, and then I will continue working on this. But as always, if you have any questions or comments, let me know. Take care.